This is Jason. I'm an engineer on the Firefox debugger team, and today we're going to look into a bug that was reported recently with outline view, where our outline view, which shows you all the functions of the file and organized by class, if there is a class here, um, doesn't do anything when you click on a function. Now, what we want to have happen is when you click on a function, it should jump to that function in the file and highlight it. But right now it's inert. And so we're going to fix that feature. And we're also going to write a Moki test, an integration test, to make sure that we don't have this happen again. So let's start by opening Atom. And we can pull up the outline component. And the outline component has a render function call. So each function is given an li with a select item. And when we select an item, we call select source with that line. And looking at it right now, I can just tell you that we recently changed select source to expect to take a location. I'll update the type. And this should fix it. But before we test it manually, let's get a Moki test in here that can make sure it doesn't happen again. Our Moki tests live in test Moki test. And to create a new Moki test, you go to browser ini, which is kind of a weird thing to do. And then you can just do that. It's a pattern that we just create a new component file when we want to test a new component. No real reason for it. Same with browser debug with this silly naming convention, browser debug, whatever. We inherit browser debug, the name, the prefix from some Moki test rules. Let me just grab another test that I'd like to copy from. So we can drop that in there, and we'll just comment the rest out. So when we've loaded, I'm just going to say await, select source, simple one. Select source is a small util that we wrote that will know how to jump to that source. And simple one is the name of the file that we want to jump to. dbg, as you can see here, is this magic object that all of our debugger tests have that just hold a lot of stuff. All of our utils take dbg first, like a this or something, and then know what to do. And we can just pause here. So to run the test, we'll go back to the terminal and do yarn. Oh, we also have to start copying to make sure that all the bundle changes go into Firefox. So we'll do yarn Moki test browser dbg outline. So as this is running, we can talk a little bit about what Moki test is doing. It's building a new version of Firefox, and then it's going to open Firefox and run through those tests, those commands. So I'll move this over here. And so cool, we've gone to simple one, we've paused after selecting the source, and if we click on outline, or it looks like we can't do that because we're paused. If we were to click on outline, we'd probably see something. So instead of doing debugger here, I'll say await, wait forever. It's tough to remember what these are, so I'll just do Moki test head. move it over here. This is where all of our helpers live. Wait forever is just going to say kick off a promise that never resolves. This is a convenient way of running, and then you can interact with the debugger. Here we go. So test is running. The test is paused, but we're no longer actually paused in the test here. We're just waiting to do something, but that gives us an opportunity to click around. And we can see that this file, simple1, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 functions. Cool. And actually, if I click here, you see it does highlight and whatnot because that function just got the fix. So the fix wasn't hard, but getting the test in will be a little bit more work than the fix. The first thing I want to do is figure out how to click on these tabs. So sometimes it's a little bit of a pain to inspect. So instead of doing that, we can use the debugger again, and then we can just query. So instead of wait forever, let's go back to debugger. And we can look at the outline while we're doing that. So now that we're paused here, we have access to DBG, and we can do find element, I think, DBG, or find element with selector, and maybe tab is where it is. I don't want to spend too much time guessing, but that gave us one tab. Maybe we find elements. No. Find element with selector, find all elements. All elements takes an element name. Okay, so we just see that find element with selectors using query selector, so we could probably just hack it in and use that. Cool. Okay, so if we have two tabs, we just need to find the one that we want. And we could dig into here, or we can just look at the code. So I'm going to look at the code. So there's outline, and we also have primary sources, which is going to be, or maybe index, or primary index. We just want tabs. Yeah, so tab active with a key sources tab and outline tab. All right, so we have to do this kind of thing. No, not quite. I think it's upset because we're mixing quotes. Still upset. Oh, this might be a React thing and not actually put in the DOM. So let's just do it that way. Maybe in React 16, key will go in the DOM. I think they said something about that. Either way, we are pretty close to being able to get a query selector that will give us a tab that we can then click on. Yeah, so there we go. There is an outline tab, and we can click it. What we like to do, we can even do find element. What we like to do is use the DOM for the things we are testing, and then use Redux and whatnot for everything else. So that gives us the first thing. And now we want to find a function, and we see that these functions have an outline list element. So we can go back here. All right, so that gives us one. That gives us all of them. And we can get the length like that. So if we wanted to write an assertion like we should say there's 5. So there are 5 items in the list. And then we might want to say, when we click on one, we are going to when we click on one, we want to see that it's highlighting. So we can get nth item. And with index, I guess we could say we want the first one, and we want to be able to click on it. We can also say something along the lines of OK or is item.innerText something as well, just so we know that we're getting the right values. So let's see if this works. Index equals 3. Yeah, that gives us an item. And can we get its inner text? Yeah, evaled func. Well, that's not a very nice one. Maybe main is... Actually, you know what? Eval func is nice because it's all the way down there. So let's keep that. All right, so when we actually click, we could do a couple things here. The main one, I think, is that we're going to assert that the line was highlighted. And we have a function in head, assert highlight location. Where is that? Right here. So here we get a line, and we check to see if that line has the highlight line. So dbg, and then source is what? Source could be simple 1. And we just want to make sure that the line that we're talking about is highlighted. I said it was 12, but looks like it's going to be 15. So let's run this once and see if we like it. Do I think this is going to pass? No. I'm using yarn mochi h right now so that we don't actually open Firefox. We can just look at the logs. And based on that, we can debug it. Okay, so it's saying got main expected eval func. Well, yeah, because we asked for the first one. Maybe we want the third. Yeah. Okay, so got 5 items in the list. Some things passed, but it didn't tell us what. And that was because we should say here, and then assert highlight location must have something that's like an is without an assertion. Cool. And if we rerun that, I think it's just going to say highlighted line is visible because that line info didn't exist. So we can put is line is highlighted passing? So not even that. So let's put a debugger here. And let's also add in one more check, which in some ways we don't need, but it's kind of nice. Wait for dispatch. So wait for dispatch is going to say wait for an action to be fired. In this case, we're going to wait for select source. As soon as we click here, it should fire select source to jump to that location. And if that doesn't happen, we're not even going to try to check for the highlight. The other thing is, if we wait for select, as soon as that's done, we should expect to have it highlighted. So that gives us a little bit more security. All right, so we are waiting for select source. And in fact, select source is fired. And then we check to see if the source URL is correct. It is still a simple one, but the line is not highlighted. So let's actually watch it run and see. We can observe whether we see the highlight line. I think we will, and we're just not waiting for it. Like, it brought us to line 9, which is pretty cool. And I guess if we wait for time dbg 500 milliseconds, is that right? Yeah, it'll probably pass. So we're just probably not waiting for it to be highlighted. It's probably being highlighted and then it's no longer highlighted. Whoa, what do we do? We ran too many tests. The other thing I'm wondering is if we really check to see if we were calling highlight in the editor. Which we're probably going to need a test. So let's look at editor index, where we call highlight line. And let's pause in here. I would think when we click on the function, we should pause, but who knows? Okay, so that's good. And I'm just looking at the test to see what's happened. We've selected a source, so we actually haven't clicked on anything yet. In fact, the outline's not even there. And again, the outline's not there, so we'll continue. Same here. Wow. We're really trying to highlight a lot of lines. Okay, so now we have clicked on the outline, but still nothing. In fact, if we step, like, yeah, is there even a selected location? I don't know. Yeah, there is one. Yeah, 15. Okay, so it is trying to go there. Um, so we're going to scroll to the line, which is good. And then we're going to try to add the line class, right? Ooh, we didn't. Why is that? So what's the last jump line? So the last jump line was null. And the line should be 15. 14. So it didn't try to actually highlight that time. And now we're checking to see if we're highlighted, and we're not. So bad things happen. So I'm going to move this highlight line right into, nope, right into here, because I want to see if at any point we try to highlight the line. And I'm going to remove this assert. And we can go back to waiting for forever. Yeah, so highlighting lines is probably more complicated than it needs to be. But it's difficult because sometimes you're going to want to highlight the line before we actually have the source. So there's some timing issues. Here we are, and we never get to that point. Even if I go here, whoa, okay. So if I click, it's going to try to do it. So there's something wrong with our test. We ask for select source. We might also want to wait for the loaded source. So if we were to put a debugger here and a debugger here, it's possible that we wanted to click on an item, but we actually show the outline before we had the loaded source. Because I guess the other thing we could do is wait for some amount of time here and then click, and it'll probably pass. So we've paused, and it looks like the source is loaded. So maybe this isn't needed. It's like, yep, we're loaded. Why are you so interested, buddy? And then of course, like, we click on eval func, and nothing happens. So let's try adding a 2-second pause. Or If that doesn't work, we can put 2 clicks in there and then really try to suss out, because we always get it when we do that on the second click. Um, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. Oh, sorry, we're pausing debuggers. But that doesn't affect the clock. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. Maybe we're not clicking. Maybe that click doesn't do what we think it's doing. I'm just going to try putting another one in. Or maybe we need to just like try to get it again. So maybe it's being re-rendered and we're clicking an orphaned element. Sometimes if we do the fetch too quickly before we click, then we have an orphan. And that can be pretty hard to figure out. Do we still have those debugger statements? We do. Okay, so now we're in there. So something just worked. I kind of liked doing this thing. So that's because you never really know with React how often it's going to replace the DOM. So if you have any dangling queries to elements that are around for any amount of time, just assume they are zombied. They're gonzo. Okay. We are very much highlighting elements now. So we can remove some of our interventions. I'll get rid of this. And I'll even, well, I don't want to bring this back yet, but let's see if we need this one. So can we see, I don't even see the highlight, but it's taking us there. It's too quick. Do we go there without the second click? Oh, we got rid of the second click. Okay. So at this point, is line 15 or line 14 highlighted? And we still have that debugger statement in there. So we are in business. I'm pretty sure we are jumping to that spot. We are calling highlight line. Highlight line's adding the class. And it's just a matter of seeing whether we have anything. So line element is null. Okay. That's always sad. So that brings up the pessimistic question of, if we're adding a line class here, are we also clearing it? So we're calling assert highlight location. Oh, this is awkward. We got rid of that second click, but maybe we needed it. Yeah, I'm going to get rid of assert highlight location and just make sure that we're calling highlight line. So we go into clear line class. That's nice. And we go into add line class. We even see it that time. And at that point, we could add assert highlight location. And yeah, there's something about that second click. So we clear the line class, then we add the line class, and then we check to see if we have the line class. And we do. Amazing. Is it visible? Yup. Is it highlighted? You betcha it is. So if I just run it headless, the debugger is not going to hit. We should get everything passing, but we're just going to have this question of, oh boy, somehow iTerm just quit. We're going to have that question of why do we need that second test? Why do we need that? Or sorry, why do we need that second click? A good way to find out. I'm going to drop this wait forever. And I'm going to add some dump statements here. Clearing line class. So we'll add those and we'll put something in here too. Oops, click one. And let's see if we can, let's see if we can get something meaningful out of this. Why the second click is the one that adds the line class. Yeah, so click one and click two. So here we're waiting on select source. Let me get rid of that. Maybe that will break it because but it's funny because we are selecting the source up there. And we're waiting for the source to be loaded. Okay, so let's track our progress. Do we call select item both times? And then do we get to the point where we're trying to select source? something strange here. So click 1, we'll try to select source. And it does, in fact, start a select source. And then click 2 is going to select source. And that one's successful. So why is the first click unsuccessful? How far does it get? Do we try to highlight? Do we try to highlight it? We know we're not up to here. Well, maybe in here we can just do. Yeah. So highlight line. Okay, that's what we saw before. It's called a lot. It's not a timid function by any means. So we click it, and the pending line, the last jump line, is null. Okay. And I guess it doesn't like highlighting lines if it's the first location. So we've got some issue with this last jump line, where I bet it's null up until this point. Yeah, those are the only places where we hit it. So for some reason, and maybe it has something to do with selected location, we don't have a last jump line until that first click. Which is probably this weird thing where when we did select source earlier, we weren't really doing what the user would do, which is I click on a source element in the source tree or something. Selected location is not declared. Sometimes multi-tests are a little bit weird for this reason. You're just trying to suss out why it's acting the way it is when a user is not going to have this problem. So yeah, so highlight line has a source ID, but it's missing the line. So early on in our test, we said select source, and that is a function in head, which takes a URL and a line. If we say go to the first line, maybe that's going to change everything. Maybe on the first time we highlight the line, or first time we go there, the highlight line is going to set the pending jump location, whatever that is, and then we'll just click and click and click. So that is null, and then we have 0, 0, 0, which is beautiful. The first click will result in a highlight line, and we're good. So this is when we kind of like do a little dance, because we think we're getting close. And go back to the test, and try tentatively to remove that click. And hope we still have a passing test. If you have a passing test, then we can remove those logs, which I was about to do, but it's always a shame to be wrong and have to put those logs back in. So you see these dumps, everything's passing, everything's great. We're gonna get rid of this, get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. We'll go over to index. You know what? I think the fastest thing to do would be GCOP, and just boom, boom. That's checkout dash patch. It's really nice. this has our fix, so let's be careful. We like that. We don't like that. That we'll have to do later. We like that change. We like that change. We like that. Multi-test head. Oh yeah, we added that small test, so we'll leave that. Come back. We like that. We don't like that dump, but we'll add it for now. And same thing there. So this is in assert highlight location. Just go in here, remove that debugger. Go back here. We had that dump in primary outline. Now we can easily add that. So let's see what this looks like. I don't remember what the issue was. Selecting a function does not highlight. Fix, select source. And that is our small one-line fix. We had to add sources tab and outlines tab. And then our test will select the source. I don't even know if we need a wait for loaded source here. Ooh, it has wait for time. That's not great. So there's debugger statements in there. Let's quickly touch that up before anyone sees what we've done. This is kind of funny. I can replace this one with find element with selector. But we have a pattern for naming some of these components too. So let's go over to multi-test head. There we are. So these are just named entities. Outline item. And yeah, it's kind of funny how we have outline item. And I guess we could have outline items. And now we can just say find all elements. And outline item index. I like that a little bit better because now in the future, this is a little better encapsulated. If we were to change our selectors, we have got one place to look, not many. And get nth item. I guess we could move those back in here, but I also like naming these two so we can compose these helpers. We don't need that item anymore. I wonder if this was ever a problem. I mean, we get the item, then we get it again, without doing any waiting for. So that doesn't need to change. And then it looks like we're checking for the inner text twice. Got 0, expected 5. Oh no. Um, we got 0 items here. Guess we're missing a dot. We are definitely getting close, right? All right. So we just cleaned up our utilities. We cleaned up the test a bit. And I think that's good. All right. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope this helps make Moki tests, certainly how we use Moki tests, a little bit more clear. And if you have any questions, follow up in our Slack channel. Thank you.